Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Dennis. You know that feeling when you think you've finally found someone who truly gets you? That was me, until I realized with my girlfriend, love and intimacy came with a price tag, and it was measured in points. At first, I didn't realize what was happening. But once I saw it for what it was, I decided I wasn't going to play her game. And let me tell you, she didn't see that coming. I'll be sharing every detail with you. But we'll have to start the story from the beginning, before everything went downhill. I first met Natasha, the lady who became my girlfriend, about 3 years ago when she came in for an interview. At the time, I was working in HR. I was one of the people who helped decide who would get a job offer. So you could say I had a decent amount of responsibility. She didn't get the job, but I'll be honest with you, something about her stuck with me. We didn't exchange contacts or anything after the interview. I just went back to my day-to-day, and life moved on. But here's the thing, a few months later, I get a LinkedIn message. I don't check LinkedIn all that much, but when I saw the name, I immediately recognized it. It was Natasha. I clicked on her profile, and yep, that was definitely her. After the pleasantries, she told me she had landed a job somewhere else. I congratulated her, and we started chatting casually. She was really warm, easy to talk to. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed our conversations. Eventually, we decided to take the conversation off LinkedIn and text each other instead. After a couple of days, I invited her to hang out. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect, but when we met up, we had a really good time. It wasn't long after that date before we got intimate. Before I knew it, we were dating. When Natasha and I first started dating, things moved pretty quickly, and I wasn't complaining. From day one, the connection was strong. She was attractive, ambitious, and funny. We had this natural chemistry, and I could see us going somewhere together. There was a spark, and I thought maybe I had finally found someone who really got me, someone I could see myself with for the long haul. We didn't waste any time getting to know each other. The early days were full of spontaneity. The physical chemistry between us was unmatched. Honestly, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it. The attraction wasn't just physical, it was everything. When we were together, we couldn't keep our hands off each other, and the intensity of it made me feel like the luckiest guy in the world. We both wanted success, and I could see us supporting each other through it all. It felt like we were a power couple in the making, two people with big dreams, heading in the same direction. The spark between us was undeniable, and I thought it would last forever. But you know, relationships don't fall apart overnight. Most times, it's quiet and slow. And honestly, you don't even notice it until you're sitting there one day wondering, what happened to us? That's how it was for me and Natasha. We were about a year and a few months into the relationship when I started feeling the distance. The energy between us wasn't the same anymore. We stopped being spontaneous. The playful texts, the surprise visits, and the nights when we couldn't keep our hands off each other slowly disappeared. I tried to initiate something, even something as simple as cuddling on the couch, and she'd say, "I'm tired," or "It's been a long day." It became so frequent that I could almost predict the excuse before she said it. At first, I didn't want to push. I respected her space and didn't want to make everything about sex. But let's be real here. Intimacy matters because it's how couples connect, how they feel close. When that goes missing, you start to feel more like roommates than partners. We were talking about getting married. We had already had conversations about long-term plans, living together, joint finances, and kids someday. But every time she brushed off intimacy, this little voice in my head got louder. Is this what forever is going to look like? I've seen what sexless marriages do to people. I've heard stories from guys who got stuck in them and felt like they were slowly disappearing inside. I didn't want that life. But instead of getting better, it only got weirder from there. One quiet night at her place. I think we had just finished eating dinner and were resting. So I leaned in and said something like, "Hey, I've noticed we haven't really been intimate lately. Is everything okay?" Now, I was expecting a real heart-to-heart conversation. She barely looked up from her phone while saying, "Not everything is about sex, Dennis. That doesn't define our relationship." I remember sitting there, kinda stunned. Not because I disagreed. Of course, a relationship is more than just physical stuff. But because that wasn't even what I was trying to say. It wasn't about sex for me. It was about connection. About feeling wanted. About knowing that we were still showing up for each other in every way. Emotionally, physically, all of it. But the way she shut it down made me feel small for even bringing it up. So I didn't push. I let it go. I didn't want to be the kind of partner who turns everything into an argument. So I dropped it. And that was my mistake. Because letting it go meant pretending it didn't matter. But it did. More than I realized at the time. So a few days go by, and Natasha is over at my place when she tells me she's been doing some research. Says she found something that's supposed to help couples grow closer, keep the relationship fun, fresh, and engaging. She called it a relationship game. Now, I'm a pretty open-minded guy. I like when people take initiative. And I figured, okay, maybe this is one of those online couple challenges or quizzes or something lighthearted. So I ask her to give me more details about what she's talking about. She starts explaining how it works. She tells me I can earn points for doing certain things, cleaning up, planning a date, surprising her with her favorite coffee, that sort of stuff. But if I forget something important, like missing a date night or leaving a mess, I'd lose points. She explains that there's a list of rewards. I remember her saying something like, once you earn enough points, you can unlock a reward. I ask, what kind of rewards? And she smiles and says things like cuddling, back rubs, kisses, and yeah, even sex. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I figured it was her way of being playful, like trying to spice things up in a creative way. I mean, it didn't seem harmful. The way she explained it made it sound like a couple's bonding game, like those things people do to keep the spark alive. I actually thought it was kind of flirty and silly in a cute way. We laughed about it, and I agreed to try it out. I had no idea what it would turn into. But in that moment, it just felt like a harmless joke between two people trying to keep their relationship interesting. But what started as this playful idea slowly turned into something that didn't feel like a game anymore. It felt like a contract I never signed. At first, it was things like, oh, you forgot to text me good morning? Minus 10 points. Or, you surprised me with dinner? That's 20 points. I thought it was just her being playful. I went along with it because, relationships take effort. And I had no problem putting in the effort. But then, slowly, everything changed. One night, I asked if she wanted to sleep over. We both had the next day off, and I thought it'd be nice. Simple, right? But she looks at me, totally serious, and goes, you want me to sleep over? That's 30 points. I kind of laughed, thinking she was messing with me. But she wasn't. She was dead serious. I asked her what she meant, and she just raised an eyebrow like I should know the rules by now. Another time, I asked her to give me a back massage because my shoulders were sore. Her response? What did you do to earn it? It was like I had to qualify for physical touch. I thought maybe she was just having a weird day, but it kept happening. Before I knew it, the rewards in this so-called system stopped being optional. There were conditions. If I didn't hit some invisible target she never showed me, I got nothing. And I'm not talking about gifts or date nights. I'm talking about basic physical closeness, hugs, cuddles, kisses, even sex. Everything had to be earned. One night, I asked if we could be intimate. She just said, you're still 25 points short. You haven't even cleaned the bathroom or brought me coffee this week. That's when I realized this wasn't about making our relationship better or more intentional. It was about control. It was about making me perform for affection. And here's the kicker. She was always the one in charge of the points. I never saw the chart, never saw the scores. I couldn't check my own progress. She was the banker, the referee, and the rule maker all at once, which meant she could change the rules whenever she wanted. I had no say. I was just guessing and hoping I'd done enough to be treated like a partner instead of a contestant in some ridiculous loyalty program. At that point, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel valued. I felt like a customer in a relationship where affection was the product, and I was being told I couldn't afford it anymore. One night, I finally spoke up. I said to her, I don't want to feel like I'm paying for you with chores. I said it calmly, not to start a fight, just hoping she'd get where I was coming from. But she just laughed, then looked at me and said, "Well, women deserve effort. I'm not just going to give it for free." This was a transaction. Her affection had a price. Her touch had a fee. Our relationship was no longer based on mutual care. It was based on some twisted scoreboard that only she controlled. And it just kept getting worse. I wasn't doing things for her out of love anymore. I wasn't thinking, "Oh, she'll love this," or "I want to make her happy." No. I was doing dishes, folding laundry, and running errands just to avoid being point-docked. I was afraid that if I forgot to bring her coffee or didn't say the exact right thing, I'd lose access to her. That's how bad it got. There was no more spontaneity, no more passion. Everything had to be earned like I was applying for a damn credit card. I tried to keep my cool, so I didn't explode. But that silence didn't help. If anything, it gave her more room to double down. Finally, I said to her, "Hey, this isn't working for me." She looked me dead in the eye and told me I was overreacting, said I wasn't playing along. She made it seem like I was the one ruining the fun, like I was some kind of killjoy who couldn't handle a little game. And then she started mocking me, telling me I wasn't disciplined enough to earn the kind of intimacy I was asking for. I don't know how I did it, but I stayed calm. I can feel myself getting to my limit. And I reached my limit on the night of Natasha's birthday. I'd spent the whole week planning everything down to the last detail. This time, I wasn't just trying to check boxes. I genuinely wanted her to feel special. It was her day. I wanted to show up as the man who knew her, cared for her, and went the extra mile just because I loved her. So, on the evening of her birthday, we're back at her place after dinner. I'm thinking maybe this night brings us closer again. Maybe she'll see all I've poured into making her feel loved. I tried to pull her in for a kiss, but she leans in and gives me a kiss on the cheek. Then she says, "This got you 40 points. You're still 15 short. Maybe next weekend." I just sat there, stunned for a moment, because right then I was tired of all these. So I stood up. I walked over to the key holder by the front door. I took the spare key to my place I had given her when things were good, when I trusted that what we had was mutual. I quietly slipped it into my pocket. I didn't even look at her yet. I got dressed, pulled on my jacket, and slid my shoes on. And when I got to the door, I turned around, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "You do not have enough points to come to my house or have my house's spare." Then I walked out. After I left Natasha's apartment that night, she didn't reach out. Not that night. Not the next morning. It was almost like she thought I was bluffing, like I'd be back once I'd cooled off. But I wasn't bluffing, and the silence that followed was real. 2 full days passed. Nothing from her. Then, finally, I got a message saying, "You're really going to throw this away over a silly system?" So I replied, telling her, "You're the one who priced it all. I just stopped paying and stopped playing." I didn't say anything else because if she still didn't get it, after all that, then there was really nothing left to say. But she kept trying. First, she started texting more often, then calling. I didn't answer. 1 week went by. Still, I didn't pick up and I didn't reply. That's probably when it finally started to sink in for her. Because the next thing I knew, she showed up at my office, waiting in the lobby. I saw her from a distance, but never went to meet her. I've had a lot of time to think since walking away from Natasha. And if there's one thing I've come to realize, it's this. When someone turns your body, your affection, your presence into a bargaining chip, that's not love. That's a contract. Love shouldn't feel like a subscription where you have to constantly earn your spot. It shouldn't feel like you're clocking in and out of a job, hoping you meet some invisible quota just to be held, kissed, or told you matter. It took me a while, but I see it clearly now. What you called a game was just a clever mask for control. So no, I didn't lose her. I realized that being in a relationship where you're constantly being measured, scored, and denied affection if you don't pass, that isn't love. That's emotional manipulation dressed up in colorful charts and relationship growth. Anyway, that's my story. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the whole thing? Be honest. Would you have stayed and tried to make it work, or would you have done what I did and walked away? Let me know down in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to hear how others would have handled something like this. If this story hit home for you, or even just made you think, go ahead and like the video. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, maybe share it with them too. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.